tal, gente? Buenas noches. My name is Rodrigo Garcia. I am the artistic director of Teatro Visión and your host for tonight. Bienvenidos to La Hora del Mitote. We thank you for joining us tonight. La Hora del Mitote se transmite por nuestra página de Facebook, en nuestro canal de YouTube, and for Instagram Live. We invite you to participate by sending us your questions and comments. I would like to start off by acknowledging that we are guests here on the ancestral homeland of the Mowek people who continue to live and thrive in our local community today. Me gustaría comenzar reconociendo que somos huéspedes aquí en la tierra ancestral del pueblo Mowek Maolone, que continúa viviendo y prosperando en nuestra comunidad local de hoy. This evening, we're here for a special treat in celebration of our 40th anniversary. We have been thinking about these special pláticas, selecting very special folks to come and share a little bit about them. And tonight, we are delighted to share this space with a Bay Area-based actor, fight director, intimacy director, and artistic director, Carla Pantoja. Carla is the artistic director of a San Francisco Shakespeare Festival after being resident artist with that company since 2014. They finished their third season at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival as a fight and intimacy director. In 2022, Carla was their first female fight director in over 3 years of the organization. Carla has worked as an actor, fight, and intimacy director with A.C.T, Shakes, TheatreWorks, Z Space, San Francisco Bay Area Theater Company, and the Magic Theater, to just name a few. Thank you for accepting our invitation to be here in La Hora del Mitote. Welcome, Carla.
Thank you for having me. Of course. Of course. I'm here for Teatro Visión. I started out at Teatro Visión a long time ago.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to have you here tonight. And in particular in this special celebration of 40 years. You know, I came to Teatro in 2006. And when I look back, I'm like, it's been a minute. And now that we're preparing for the 40th anniversary and looking back at productions, 40 years, you know, it's only two numbers, two digits, but when you look in terms of the journey, where we were from where we are, it's a lot. And the people, the wonderful people that have collaborated with us and have been part of Teatro, it's amazing. And so this special pláticas mean a lot to us because it's also a way to reconnect with those veteranos such as yourself that one time they, you know, were on the stage of Teatro Visión, and now they're on for bigger and amazing things. So I'd like to start, Carla, with just where everything started for Carla Pantoja. Let's go back to the genesis of this wonderful artist that we have here today.
Wow. Well, I'm from the Bay Area, born and raised in the Bay Area. I first generation in the Bay Area, and I loved theater from being little. Yeah, I got a chance to see. I saw Annie at the Civic Center, and saw a production when I was younger, and apparently I got up and said, well, I could do that because I was so excited to see kids on the stage, and I loved it. And I went to school for it at UC Davis, and when I came back, I was really looking for a place that I felt like I could connect to, and not just in theater, but also who I am, part of my culture. And Teatro Visión was it. And I remember calling up and asking, like, how can I get involved and what can I do? Because I just wanted to get to know the company. And I I started. I can't even remember what year it was. Was it 90? I sent it to y'all, but I can't remember. But it was for no,
97,
like no se paga, no se paga, and it was
97.
at City Lights, and I helped um, work on, like, I volunteered to help set up the set, and then um, I was able to get a free ticket to see the show, and I just thought it was really cool, and I was so excited to be a part of the organization, and I just kept, I would audition, didn't get anything, I would audition, but I finally got into House on Mango Street, directed by Jesus Reyes, and that was at the CET, because at that time, Teatro Visión was moving from producing at City Lights, and then they were going to CET as a part of an intermediary before they went to the Mexican Heritage Plaza, um, because it was like, oh, we got to get ready to fill this big old space at the plaza, and can we do it? Um, yes, we can. And so I was part of the season where we did, I think it was House on Mango Street and Rosita's Jalapeno Kitchen. And it was just, I remember seeing the Rosita's Jalapeno Kitchen, which was hilarious. It was lovely. And being a part of House on Mango Street was just so exciting. I just loved the group that I was working with. And Mark Pinate was also part of Teatro Visión, and we would do little skits off to the side. Yeah, so it was part of how I found my roots theatrically in the Bay Area, was through Teatro Visión. And then when we moved to the Mexican Heritage Plaza, we did Harvest Moon, and I got to be in that, and it was really. I remember looking at the space and going, "Wow, this is amazing." Because when one is, at least in my experience, as a newer actor, to be able to work in a space like the Mexican Heritage Plaza was such a dream, because it's gorgeous. It's beautiful inside and out. And it was just, it's like, wow, it was really, it was a great time.
Carla, you mentioned something about um, looking for a place where you feel that you belong, not only as an artist, but in your own identity, in your cultural identity. Why do you think that was important for you? And what was it that made it special for you?
Well, I identify as Chicana, um, and it it's not just the people. I was getting to work on stage with people who had a background like me, who we got a lot of the same jokes. We and plays that were for people like me, not only to perform in, but to perform for. And in college, growing up, and taking classes, and learning the arts and whatever that, blah blah blah. It I think I in a theater history course, I am pretty sure, like, we had one day where they did one lesson where half of it was about Chicano theater and Luis Valdez, and the other half was, um, I want to say it was, generic agitprop theater and political theater. Um, there's also something to be said for Teatro Visión, even when the plays don't seem political, they are, because being able to see a cast full of Latine people, produced by Latine people, for Latine people, is political. Um, because it's not really taught. It's kind of an addendum on our training. And so there was something that just felt like home, but also opened up a whole new world to me of like, oh my gosh, Cherie Moraga, why aren't people talking about Cherie Moraga? Octavio Solis, what? Why why is it very rarely that we see, at least in the earlier days, I mean it's still true now, but it seemed that every Latine playwrights and plays were always relegated to like as a side project for other theater companies. So there was something that opened up for me in experience, but also like connecting to the group of artists of like, yes, we matter, and look at this audience, and this is for them, and this is for us.
That's very powerful. Thank you for sharing. Now, in your experience, you're looking for a place um, for that belonging, and then you find a place. How did that shape your own identity? How that experience helped shape your own identity as you were becoming mature, mature in a sense, the more seasoned artist? How did that influence you?
Wow, I have to say, Teatro Visión also gave me the opportunity to grow as an artist because there was more opportunity for me to grow as an artist. Um, so many times I would get called in the Bay Area, um, and I would know exactly what play. I was like, oh, okay, you want me to play the one Latine character, femme Latine character, and I will see all my friends there because we're all auditioning for the one role. Um, I see, I get it, but I wasn't called for other things, and so it's hard to get the practical of learning one's craft if you don't actually get to do it. And so at Teatro Visión, there's the opportunity to actually do it, to get up and practice and um, have roles that are incredibly complex and incredibly connected to self, and be able to to stretch oneself and say, oh, I haven't tried that one before. Ooh, can I do it? That's a little scary, but I'm going to try it. And I also have to say that there are folks that I met through Teatro Visión who I still keep in touch with, who are still near and dear to my heart. I count them as dear friends, comadres, absolutely. And they are also who, if I'm feeling down, I might give them a call, a text, and say, hey. And it was also a way to find mentorship, um, to be able to work with incredible folks like Wilma Bonet and Vivis, who have gone on, who've done big things and come back and come in and out, but they've been such incredible mentors. Um, and mentors who are younger, like Sarita, who I think is an incredible artist working around the country. Um, you know, uh, yeah, it's exciting, and look at us. Look at us.
It is so amazing. I seriously, taken by your own reflection because, like, Sarita and I were auditioning for La Víctima. Well, I auditioned for Teatro Visión, and they called me for La Víctima, and that's where I met Sarita, this very young girl who wanted to do theater, who had big dreams, and just facing like, where do I belong? For her, it was like, am I Latina enough? Uh, I identify as Latina, Chicana, but people don't perceive me as such. How do I prove myself as an artist? It's, like all these questions that in her own journey make her be who she is right now. But like you said, seeing her in her journey as an artist, Jacob and I went to Tucson, and she was there on the big stage with Hugo, and they
I
were doing
know,
Started
right?
Lies that now they're gonna be at A.C.T in San Francisco, and just seeing that journey, it's been amazing, and seeing you also at Oregon Shakes, this big stage, and Vivis and Wilma. It's really amazing, and just for that, a little bit of a throwback in time. We have a picture that you might recognize. I'm gonna give you just a little hint. You recognize that?
Yes, that's from Electricidad. I'm not in that picture, but that's from Electricidad.
That's right.
Because Adelina is down there. Oh, that's me in the white with Dina Martinez. Mm-hmm. Yep, there's me and Vivis.
I
Oh
mean,
my
these
goodness.
pictures are like historical treasures for us, and I mean, just the powerful presence that you both have on the stage is just breathtaking. And here's another one, young Carla.
Oh my goodness, me and Adelina. I still have those earrings, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Of course I do. Of course I
And
do.
did you get a like one of those transferable tattoos, or did they
Oh
draw it
my
on your
goodness.
hand?
Yes. So Electricidad is a Luis Alfaro play that is heavily influenced by Electra, and it's kind of about the cycle of families that are in gangs, and so we had a lot of temporary tattoos, and I remember they were like, oh, okay, try not to, if you can, try not to um, take it off at least for the weekend. And so, yeah, I had a neck tattoo. I had some on my arms. I had, yeah, I painted some. I think I had a painted teardrop as well. Yep.
Carla, Electricidad is only one example of the many very poignant uh, plays that we saw on the stage of Teatro Visión in past years. Stories like Electricidad, The Kiss of a Spider Woman, La Víctima, that bring these realities, these raw realities about our experience as Chicanos, Latinos, um, that are that in a way bring those issues that in the media have been used to create these negative stereotypes about ourselves. Um, from this political perspective that you were talking about in being on these stages that are not meant to be for us, how was your experience portraying characters like Ifi and in Electricidad?
I I was so excited to play Iphigenia and work with this incredible cast. Oh my gosh, um, it was it was a great journey to break apart this role. Who, you know, was able to break away, but then still had a lot of misogyny and the paternalism and the having to put on a face. I mean, I have to say, Ifigenia reminds me a little bit of Luisa from Encanto, about being a bigger sister who has to be tough and deal and take care of, and not let it break her. And I feel like that's, um, now, does that speak for all big sisters in the Latina community? No, but does it speak for a lot of us? Yeah, I, I personally can say, yeah, I know what it is to, like, yep, do it, just make it happen. Yeah, there's something about that, being able to see reflections of self, but also the true portrayals of the human condition. And I think that's, that's why also I didn't think I would, because I was a little scared about it at first. I didn't think I would connect to Shakespeare, but I did. And now I'm the artistic director of SF Shakes. But that's what drives me, is the connection to the human condition. All of us have fear or feel like we have to be tough at one point or another in our lives, or have to front, or because there's a tender part of us that we have to take care of. Um, we feel love, we feel loss. Those are the things, those connections can appeal to everyone. And the same goes for these plays.
Well, one thing that I love about the work of, in this case, Luis Alfaro, is that these characters that, again, we might see them in the media as stereotypes, he unfolds all the complexities, the humanity that you're talking about, these universal values of love and hate and despair and fear, and like in all the different layers, as opposed to just like, oh well, you're portrayed as a criminal, or you're portrayed as this and this, but unfolding all the complexities. It's not to resolve, because there's nothing to resolve, it is what it is, but understanding that these characters are complex, are multidimensional, not just one thing, which is a lot what the media does in portraying characters that are not part of the mainstream.
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. This is really amazing, and I mean, we're already almost half, and I want to just take a moment to remind folks that we are here tonight in La Hora del Mitote, celebrating 40 years of creating theater to make people feel, think, and act, or inspiring people to feel, think, and act to create a better world. Teatro Visión started in 1984, and it was an ensemble company created mostly by women from teatro, who were looking to bring to stage or bring forward the stories that were not present at that moment in the narrative of the Chicanidad. And we thankful for our founding artistic director, Elisa Marina Alvarado, who will be honored at the uh, 40th anniversary gala, along with other ensemble members, Rose Mendoza, Irene Burgos, and David Termenal, who were also part of this first ensemble. And now, 40 years after, talking to great artists such as Carla Pantoja, who is currently the artistic director of SF Shakes. We're here. We welcome your comments. If you have any, your love, send us your love. And please remember that our gala is the next week. We have a big gala coming up on Saturday, August 24th at the Mexican Heritage Plaza. You can find tickets and information at teatrovision.org. We will continue tonight in our Plática con Carla Pantoja. So, in you know, you being a local artist, and then you know, you start growing as an artist, and then you go off to other places. What was your experience in that transition from being with a local company to going to companies you've never worked before outside with people you probably didn't know very well? How was that experience, and what do you think prepared you for that?
Well, I feel like a lot of the training, the on the job training that I got as an actor at Teatro Visión definitely helped me as an actor elsewhere. I also became a fight director. And so I started working at a lot of companies as a fight director or an assistant fight director and got to know companies that way. Um, there's, I'm like, what? How is it different? Every organization has its own onboarding process or how they audition, and learning how to go after it and hustle and audition and meet folks. I had, by being a Bay Area local actor, I had multiple companies that I was able to work on the ground floor. San Francisco Shakes was one of them. And so I had absolutely worked at Teatro Visión first. Then I was able to work at SF Shakes on their tour and got to know them that way. And so I would be in and out of this company that I would then lead like 20 years later. And then there was an all-female Shakespeare company that I got involved with because I was a fighter. I trained at the American what is it, AMTSJ, the American Musical Theater of San Jose. I used to work there in the box office. For those of you who don't know, it was a local institution employing lots of people, and then it went under. And but I got a chance to train as a fight person there. That's how I learned about Women's Well, which was an all-female Shakespeare company. So I got kind of on the ground their second year that they started. I did a show with them, Coriolanus, and then I started doing fights for them and acting for them, and I was a resident artist there. But I was still continuing with the Teatro Visión in that Elisa offered so many opportunities to grow in different ways at Teatro Visión for many of us. And so we would read plays to help be kind of like an advisory position of, ooh, I love this play. Let's talk about this play that came in. And which is also a great way as a new actor to read plays so that you get a different monologue. And so I was like, ooh, I'm going to audition with these monologues that I'm reading at Teatro Visión, and I'm going to show people that yes, see, this is good, huh? You haven't heard this monologue before, have you? No, you have not. To do that. Yeah, I mean, it's just like getting to know people at different locations in different ways. In 2020, I went to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival as an actor. Both Sarita and I, that was our first season with Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And then in 2020, everybody knows what happened, the pandemic. So we didn't finish our season. We did get an opening, which was lovely. And we got to work with Karen Zacarias on a beautiful play called The Copper Children, which I was like, oh, it was exactly the kind of show that we would have done at Teatro Visión. And it was a true story of around the 1900s. Irish orphans from the New York area were picked up and taken across the country and placed with Catholic families on the West Coast. And there were these Mexican families uh, working at a copper mine. And all of a sudden, the white folk in that area went in the middle of the night and took those children away from them and said that this is a true story, y'all. This is a true story. And they argued in court that the Mexicans were not fit to raise these white children. And the Mexican families, were not allowed in the courtroom. And their children were taken away that they were adopting. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, it was, right up Sarita and Mai's alley. We at least got to open it. It's a beautiful script. It's a beautiful play. And then I came back to OSF as a fight person. And so and to this day, I still spend part of my year in the Oregon, at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, working on fights, and which is just great because I'm learning even more about how a large organization works, and applying lessons to my little SF Shakes.
That is wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing. I'm just in awe. I could hear you talk the whole night. Um, in your work, and I would like to, if you don't mind expanding a little bit more about what it means to be a fight director, but also I'm interested to hear more about your work as an intimacy director. One, from the practical perspective, what it means, what it does, but also how that fits in the current narrative in terms of equity and gender equity. Because growing up and when I started doing theater, there was not such thing. The director would say, slap her, because that's what you do in the telenovelas. You see all this, or you have this, very spicy scene where, well, you're an actor, you just have to do it. Like all these ideas that were before, that right now are being challenged, and you know and it's very important to continue that what that means. So if you don't mind elaborating on that.
Sure. Well, right around the same time that I was, maybe a little after working with Teatro Visión, I started doing stage combat because I loved it. Um, I didn't know at the time. I didn't think that I would ever use it in my professional world, in my professional life, because all the things that I saw with fights were men. And at the beginning, when I was training in the early 2000s, late 1990s. Yes, I'm dating myself, but whatever. Uh, um, it was I would be the only female in the room, and there were certain things that I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I remember taking a class at American Musical Theater of San Jose, and the two instructors um, asked us what we could get out of it, and I basically said I loved it, but I probably wouldn't use it in my professional world. And they talked about how in contemporary theater, especially at the time, there was a lot of violence against women or even people of color in the contemporary plays of the time. And so part of being an actor is learning how to do fights too. Not that you have to stage them. Please don't ever stage a fight yourself. Please find someone to help you. but it's a way to help protect you and the partner that you're working with. Because in my organization, Dueling Arts International, we call the person who you're working on the fight with, they're not your opponent. This is not Fight Club. We can talk about it. They are your partner. We're just doing a scene that's physical. That's all. Um, and so I got the opportunity with Women's Well, where I was able to be in a show where I was a main fighter, and I got a role that I might not have got if I hadn't been a fighter. And so then Woman's Well opened up a whole different world where I got to do Shakespeare roles that were nice and juicy, um, because they were men. And the roles written specifically for women are very, one, two. Um, and then I would get to fight, and then I started doing fight direction. It kind of fell. They were like, "Well, hey, you've got the most fight on your resume, so will you do the fights?" Oh my goodness, my fights in my early career. Oh, yeah, I'm sure they were very bad. Just like acting, right? When you first start out, not so great. You got to practice at it. You got to practice. There's still days that I look at something that I've built, and I'm like, is this okay? I don't know. I do things a little differently now. I've morphed, um, but something that also kind of I fell into was intimacy direction as well, and part of that, I think, I feel like I was doing intimacy direction to a certain extent before it existed, because there was a time that I became kind of the expert, or the person that people would call if there was violence against women, sexual violence happening on stage, where either through people's assumption that a female fight director would be able to um, address it in a mindful, caring way. One thing that I'm really proud of is that some of the work that I've done with those subject matters, all of the actors that I've worked with have been like, yep, we're good. And I talk about I always hope that I can get an actor in clean and out clean, is what I call it. And so that they're not bringing anything that they don't need to the fight, but they're also leaving the fight and all that, all the acting, all the stuff that comes with being in a fight or being in violence, and leaving it at the door, and that they go away with a clear conscience, clear mind, and they can go back to their families and not have like, oh, I feel horrible. Um, and then I got a chance to work with Maya Herbstman, who is like the first intimacy director in the Bay Area. And uh, it was just like, where have you been all my life? And we just hit it off. I think the world of her. I think she's amazing. I've trained under her. I'm still training as an intimacy director. I absolutely have more knowledge and background as a fight director. I've trained and I've certified as a fight director, so I can teach it to people to get like a certificate up to level 1, because a lot of what fight direction is teaching stage combat, because it's not something that people arrive with. Um, and the more I've done fights, the longer I've done fights, the more I encounter people who have had a connection to real violence that may come up when they're working with stage combat. And so I think my training with intimacy direction in helping set containers or be mindful really helps them, and helps me see that.
And how important it is for both the actor and the director to be really aware that violence, even when it's staged, It's violence that can trigger, or it can cause an effect, a triggering effect for those who have been victims of some kind of violence. And it is important to not re-victimize those who have been victims of violence, particularly women that are subjects to violence in many ways, you know, even through the media, and it's so normalized. And now that expands right to like gender nonconforming folks who are constantly subjects of violence, LGBTQ folks, people of color. You know, and how do we remain true to a story without causing additional harm to those who are portraying those kind of stories? Well, um, we work with a lot of youth, and you were uh, one of our dear instructors when we were staging one of the plays for youth, the Transition of Doodle Pequeño in 2019. You came to do some fight direction with them. Uh, for any youth and any young uh, artists, theater artists that might be seeing this, or those who work with young artists, what would be some of your most precious um, learnings about being an actor in general that you can provide?
Oh, I have to say, it's learning to, and this is hard. This is one of the hardest lessons that um, I think anyone can. I can only. I'm going to speak for myself. Um, it's one of the hardest lessons that I am still learning to do. Even though I do what I do, and as a fight director, intimacy director, I come from a background of training where and things are shifting, but there's a background of training of yes and say yes and of training for um, training actors to say, oh, you better say yes, or else you're not going to get the job because there's a million people behind you who want that job. Okay, yes, acting is very competitive, but um, the hardest thing for me is speaking up for myself. Um, and I'm still learning that and learning to have moments of quiet because and I see a comment from Instagram about chauvinism, violence, patriarchy. I mean, it's patriarchy, chauvinism. Some of that stuff is in everything that we do, like just as a culture, not this culture, but like the United States culture. It's in theater. It's in of like the hurry it up, the and it's so embedded in the training that it's really easy to say no, it's fine, I'll just do it, it's fine, just how many times have I heard actors say, I just told them it was fine, just hit me, or it was fine, just kiss me, it's fine. um, but it's not. And learning to say, wait, hold on, let's take a moment, let's take a breath. And I absolutely fall, I make mistakes all the time. um, as I was talking about working on that show at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, um, there is in the play there is a monologue by the judge that is pulled directly from the case, and he basically talks about how Mexicans, and it's all the stereotypes, are you know lazy and dirty, and I'm just all these things that are so horrible to hear. And at the time we were hearing them from our current president about
Hmm.
um and I remember working on the show, and at that time I had training as an intimacy director. I had training, and so I knew about like, ooh, take care of myself. But I would go home from, I was like, why am I feeling so horrible? And I remember them going through and having that monologue and just like bawling and realizing, luckily, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival had their, they were the first regional organization, regional theatrical organization that had a resident intimacy director, Sarah Lozoff. And she came and talked to the whole group and talked about how these things can affect us and how to take care of ourselves. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. Yes. And I forgot. And um, yeah. So the hard lessons are speaking up for oneself, taking care of oneself, because a lot of the training facilities and even how we make theater is like, let go of yourself and just do it. And that's, to me, that's a hard lesson, and that's one that I continue to look for and slow down, not only as myself as an actor, but when I teach and do fight or intimacy, it's like, ooh, wait, we have time.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you for
I
this.
do want to say something else about Teatro Visión, and that Teatro Visión, and Elisa, I talked about how Elisa was allowing so many of us to grow and go into different, like, being able to read plays and things like that. But as I became more of a fight director, um, I was working on fights with Teatro Visión. And as a baby fight director, being able to do that and practice and learn and be trusted to do that, it makes a huge difference, um, in as to be able to grow as an artist, to have that trust and that opportunity. And so, yeah, Teatro Visión has had fight directors for a long time.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I do remember. For me, honestly, that was a concept. I grew up in Mexico City. My I began my career in theater in Mexico City, and just a quick little story. We had this play that had like different moments that was portraying happiness and fear, and like it was by frames and different emotion. There was this scene. I had this very good female friend, and she invited me to be in that play because they lost an actor, and she talked about me, and she's like, "Oh my God, you would be great." And so I auditioned. I got in, and then we partner in one of the scenes, and it was the scene where we were four couples, and we portrayed violence with four couples. And there was this scene that I can still remember where we were just beating them, our hearts out, like physically slapping ourselves and yelling obscene things at each other. I cannot tell you that after we finished the season, she and I could not talk again. It was so, but we were both believing that that's the way actors work. Like, you're an actor, you take it.
Yeah.
That typical thing of the show must go on.
Oh, yes.
And for me,
Mm.
coming to Teatro Visión and finding that there was such thing as a fight director, I was like, fight director? I used to slap myself with other people back in my early days. What does that do? And it was through that experience in working in theater, like you said, that I learned the value and the importance of having professionals focusing on fight and intimacy, which was something also new. And it's fairly new. I mean, we're talking about maybe a couple of decades that now theater companies bring intimacy directors to work through those scenes. And again, uh, how much that has changed from when we began to nowadays. And it is important for younger generations to know, like you were saying, you don't have to do it. You can have agency and say, no, I won't. Don't compromise.
Yes. Yes.
So this is great. We're approaching the end, and I want just to remind folks that we are here in La Hora del Mitote as part of our 40 eventos por 40 años, 40 events for 40 years celebration. We're in this wonderful plática con a great artist, fight director, actor, now artistic director of an important company in the Bay Area, credits many companies around the area and in California, and also a great friend of our company of Teatro Visión, Carla Pantoja. Carla, who started with us a few years ago. But it's important to celebrate. I mean, it, when when you look at years in terms of experience, it's important because that's what makes us who we are tonight. Carla, as we are approaching the end, tell us about your work at SF Shakes. You shared with us that there is a production going on right now, which we unfortunately cannot attend because of all the preparation. But tell us about it. And I have here, this is the website where folks can find more information. But tell us about SF Shakes in your work. What are you folks working on, etc.
Yeah. We we are known for free Shakespeare in the Park, and so this summer we're doing The Tempest, and we take we have a group of actors and a set, and it goes from location to location to location. We started in Cupertino, and we're out in the parks, and so you bring a picnic, you bring outdoor chairs and sit down, and it's about 100 minutes, no intermission. Again, it's free. If you want to throw a couple bucks in the basket, great. And it's a shortened version of The Tempest. And right now we are in Redwood City, and our show times are at 6 o'clock, Saturday and Sunday. This weekend, next weekend in Redwood City, and 6 o'clock. We're at Red Morton Park. Uh, Bring your picnics, bring your blankets, come on out. And then after that, we will move to San Francisco to McLaren Park at the Jerry Garcia Amphitheater. And then we'll have another location in San Francisco, which we will announce soon. And we go until towards the end of September. And on the weekends, free, 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 free. Because the arts for me is for everyone, and SF Shakes believes in that. I know Teatro Visión believes in that, and it's it, come on out. I love seeing folks and little kids just be able to come and watch and see theater, and and in a very no no judgy, low impact way. And if kids get fussy, that's all right. You know, come back. We had a mom bring a little baby to the park in Cupertino, and then said, oh, that she would come back another day to finish it out because the baby got fussy. But it was a way for her to be able to enjoy theater. Um, yeah. So
And I
that's
think it's a
that's what we're
great
doing.
opportunity for families to introduce themselves to theater, to the arts, to Shakespeare, which there's so much to say about Shakespeare. For some people, it might mean like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to understand. Oh my God, Shakespeare is boring. Or oh my God, how do I get into Shakespeare? And I think this is a
Oh
great
yes.
content.
Yeah, I have to say, our some people think Shakespeare is like, oh, the Shakespeare. You have to. Nobody's in a British accent, y'all. Um, we do have we have a pre-show that kind of helps people get to understand the characters and the story. So if you're worried about that, we also have programs that you can download to understand what characters are playing who. Um, do have to say, like, there's fart jokes in Shakespeare, and there's definitely a fart joke in this show. Before the show, we have a craft for kids, but we've had adults make them too, because we have some goddesses making an appearance in the show. And we have these visors that say SF Shakes on one side, but folks are being able to tilt them up and you can decorate. So we have an arts and crafts table for families, younger kids, adults too, to color, bedazzle, make yourself a goddess headdress, and come see the show.
Amazing. And how can a young actor can get into working with you folks?
Oh, with SF Shakes? Well,
Hmm.
we're finishing up camps. We do have camps in the summer. Um, we have residencies where we go out to schools, and then younger adult actors who are newer to the game. You can start in as a tour actor, which is where I started, and you're paid a weekly salary. We've got 5 actors plus 5 alternates, so 5 actors doing about a 45-minute play that goes and tours from February until May, and it goes into schools, it goes into community centers, it goes into senior centers, and it travels in the Bay Area and a little bit beyond. And our show next year in 2025, the touring show, is Romeo and Juliet. And yeah, so show up, audition.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Carla, we're approaching the end. Any last thoughts that you want to offer for our audience?
Mm, I think the thing that I really think about with why I'm here, and also Teatro Visión, and how I'm such a huge fan of Teatro Visión, and it's become like a huge part of who I am as an artist, and a building block, as it were, and a touchstone. Uh, Show up, y'all. Go to theater. See plays that Teatro Visión is doing. Um, you have a youth play in the spring. Um, do that if you're interested. Uh, Volunteer if you're like, oh, I don't have money to give to this incredible company, but volunteer and be a part and get to know Teatro Visión and Rodrigo and the incredible work that they're doing, because they're worth knowing. And just show up, and you will find a place.
Thank you. That's really beautiful, Carla. Thank you so much. People like you make a big difference in our community because you never know, you're already mentoring a lot of folks. You're touching a lot of folks with your words and looking up to you and your work and your career. That you can summarize it in a paragraph, but when you start digging, there is a lot that goes with it. A lot of work, a lot of passion, a lot of commitment, discipline that is important. That you learn as you do when you're truly passionate about, I mean, in this case, theater, but really when you find your passion, you know, you do everything that it takes, and discipline and persistence, and you just showing up, like you said. So we want to thank you so much. We want to, before we go, we want to remind folks that our gala, it's coming up next week. Next week, just in, oh, this is the logo, this is the banner. It's on Saturday, August 24th at the Mexican Heritage Plaza. The program starts at 7:30, and after the program ends, we will have a huge, uh, what is it called? Not a huge, but we'll have a party. We have some tacos and quesadillas. We will have great music with excellent musicians, Russell Rodriguez, Charlie, and all the musicians that you've seen before on our stages, play music to, mover el bote, dar el guarachazo, todo, and have fun. But especially, you'll be supporting our programming and helping us take Teatro Visión into the next era, where we are hoping to expand our programs to be able to bring teatro outside of the building and take it into schools. We have great projects coming up. We have a new work in development uh, that will lift the stories of residents in Mayfair. There is so much, and just the fun of meeting people in the gala that you never thought that you would meet. So we look forward to seeing you. You can buy your tickets at teatrovision.org/gala. And without further ado, oh my God, I'm clicking on the wrong one. You
Ah,
see that young actress who is an amazing artist right now, a role model, an inspiration for young artists and for seasoned artists as well. Thank you so much, Carla. It's been a pleasure having you. We look forward to hear more about your successes in your career, getting, remaining in touch, and having you for a future session of La Hora del Mitote.
thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Teatro Visión. Happy 40th.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.